There was a lot of racial tension in the country, and, I mean, it was very prevalent. It's different than now. All of the things evolve and come back, but addressing that time period.
Before the chaos. Before the drugs. Before the missed shows and vanished genius. There was a moment when Sly and the Family Stone looked like the future of America. Not just musically, but socially. In 1966, Sylvester Stewart had a vision that went far beyond hit records. Raised in Vallejo, California, Sly had grown up singing gospel with his siblings, working as a DJ, producing local acts, and absorbing everything from doo-wop to Dylan. By his mid-20s, he had already lived several musical lives. What he wanted next was radical. He wanted a band that looked like the world should look.
But maybe because down and out is not that, the way they talk about it is not that uncomfortable. I know I was not going to steal any Wheaties or even, anything like that, but I can imagine what they're talking about. The only down and out to me is not having material live and in living color right now. That was going on. I'm cool right now. Even without whatever money.
Sly merged his own group, the Stoners, with the band led by his brother Freddie. He added his sister Rose on keyboards and vocals, trumpet player Cynthia Robinson, saxophonist Jerry Martini, drummer Greg Errico, and bassist Larry Graham. The result was startling for its time. Black and white musicians, men and women, standing side by side as equals. This was not common in the late 1960s music industry. It was defiant.
We did. The way our mother raised us, she babysit every kid in the neighborhood. And so we had every color in the rainbow in the house. And we came up.
Sly named the group after himself and his family. The implication was clear. This wasn't just a band, it was a statement. A musical commune built on unity, rhythm, and shared power. Their early performances were explosive. At a gig at the Winchester Cathedral in Redwood City, their energy caught the attention of Epic Records talent scout David Kapralik. Soon after, they were signed. Expectations were high. Reality was harsher. Their debut album, A Whole New Thing, 1967, was bold, chaotic, and experimental, but it failed commercially. The sound was too strange for pop radio, and too funky for rock audiences. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Neither did the public. The follow-up, Life 1968, fared no better. For a moment, it looked like Sly's vision might collapse before it ever reached the mainstream. Then, one song changed everything. Dance to the Music wasn't subtle. It announced itself immediately, calling out the instruments, pulling listeners inside the groove, demanding participation. Released in 1968, it shot to number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. Suddenly, Sly and the Family Stone weren't outsiders anymore. They were unavoidable. The song didn't just sound different, it felt different. Call-and-response vocals blurred the line between band and audience. The groove was joyful, physical, and inclusive. This wasn't music meant to be admired from a distance, it was meant to be shared. That spirit defined what came next. In 1969, the band released Stand, an album that captured the optimism and tension of a nation in flux. Songs like Everyday People, Sing a Simple Song, and I Want to Take You Higher blended funk, soul, rock, and pop into something entirely new.
As a matter of fact, Sly, he was singing. I heard my mom and dad talk about it sometime at 4 years old. He was singing. They were taking the great big meetings. He would stand on a table, and he had a thing, my mother told me, that if he didn't get an ovation, if they didn't stand up, he'd cry.
Everyday People was deceptively simple. Built around the line, different strokes for different folks, it rejected division at a time when America was tearing itself apart. The song went to number 1 on both the pop and R&B charts. For 4 weeks, Unity topped the charts. The album sold millions. And then came Woodstock. In the early morning hours of August 17, 1969, Sly and the Family Stone took the stage around 4 a.m. Many in the crowd were exhausted, some were half asleep. According to festival staff, Sly had to be threatened just to appear. He wanted to delay the performance even further. But once the band began, everything changed. During I Want to Take You Higher, Sly took command of the crowd, leading hundreds of thousands of people in a call-and-response chant of a single word: higher. The sleepy audience came alive. The moment became one of the defining performances of the festival. It wasn't just a concert. It was communion. Artists watching from the sidelines understood immediately that something had shifted. George Clinton later said Sly's music had the clarity of Motown with the volume and danger of Jimi Hendrix. Funk was no longer confined to dance floors. It had become a force. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. After Woodstock, Sly retreated. The optimism of the late 1960s was fading, replaced by political assassinations, Vietnam, and disillusionment. Sly moved to Los Angeles, surrounded himself with bodyguards, and disappeared into his mansion. The music darkened. The next album took nearly 2 years to complete. There's a Riot Going On, 1971, sounded nothing like what came before. The production was murky. Drum machines replaced live drums. Joy gave way to paranoia. Where Stand preached togetherness, Riot felt withdrawn and exhausted. And yet, it was a masterpiece. The album went to #1. Family Affair topped the charts. Critics hailed it as a funeral for the 1960s dream. It captured the emotional hangover of a movement that had promised everything and delivered uncertainty. But the cost was immense. Sly was no longer just experimenting with sound. He was spiraling. Cocaine and PCP became constants. Band members described him carrying a violin case filled with drugs. Sessions went unattended. To keep him recording, Epic installed a professional studio inside his Bel Air home. The Family Stone had become orbiters around one man's instability. This was no longer a utopian collective. It was a fragile empire built on genius and addiction. And the fall was about to accelerate. By the early 1970s, the dream that Sly and the Family Stone once represented was unraveling in real time. The unity, the optimism, the sense that music could reshape society, all of it was still there, but buried beneath paranoia, addiction, and fear. After There's a Riot Going On, Sly Stone no longer behaved like the leader of a band. He behaved like someone under siege.
I mean, you thought of the name, I assume.
You didn't let me answer, though.
No. You're gonna answer that.
Yeah, my brother plays guitar.
Yeah.
And my sister plays electric piano. And Larry plays bass. He's a cousin of Cynthia Robinson who plays trumpet.
Yeah.
Greg plays, Gregorico plays drums.
He surrounded himself with bodyguards. He slept at odd hours. He trusted fewer and fewer people. Cocaine and PCP became daily companions, not indulgences. Band members described him carrying a violin case filled with drugs. Rehearsals were missed. Recording sessions dissolved into chaos. Epic Records, desperate to keep their most valuable artists productive, made an unprecedented move. They installed a full recording studio inside Sly's Bel Air mansion. The goal was simple. If he wouldn't come to the studio would come to him. It worked, but it destroyed everything else. The atmosphere inside the Family Stone turned toxic. Political pressure compounded personal instability. Sly aligned himself with militant figures and streetwise managers who blurred the line between protection and control. The Black Panthers demanded that white members Greg Errico and Jerry Martini be replaced by black musicians. Gangsters served as bodyguards. Fear replaced trust. Drummer Greg Errico quit in 1971, unable to cope with the volatility. Soon after, tensions exploded between Sly and bassist Larry Graham, the man whose slap bass technique had redefined funk itself. A physical altercation ended the partnership. Graham walked away and formed Graham Central Station. The Family Stone was no longer a family. On stage, things grew worse. Concerts became unpredictable. Sly routinely arrived hours late. Sometimes he didn't arrive at all. In Chicago's Grant Park, a refusal to perform triggered a riot that led to more than 150 arrests. In 1973, audiences waited endlessly while Sly lingered backstage. When he finally appeared, sets were often short, unfocused, and chaotic. The New York Times called a Radio City Music Hall show a pop music ripoff. Still, Sly believed spectacle could save him. In June 1974, he staged one of the strangest events in rock history: his wedding. Instead of a private ceremony, Sly turned his marriage to model Kathy Silva into a full-scale concert at Madison Square Garden. 20,000 fans paid to attend. Doves were released, models carried golden palm fronds. The ceremony was delayed, of course. Excess defined every detail. It was grand. It was surreal. And it was hollow. The marriage collapsed within months. Silva later said she left because she didn't want that world of drugs and weirdness. The album meant to revive Sly's career, Small Talk, failed both critically and commercially. By 1975, the collapse was undeniable. A poorly attended show at Radio City Music Hall confirmed what everyone already knew. Sly and the Family Stone were finished.
When you guys had to hatch it up underneath the organ seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody in the group had
Everyone they were
had to have a weapon
Everyone they
so
were
we could finish the gig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, remember that?
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do. That's really what it is. I gotta play music. They ain't play music, so I gotta just play music.
The band dissolved quietly, not with a statement, but with exhaustion. Sly attempted a solo career. The results were disastrous. High on You, 1975, made little impact. Later projects disappeared entirely. By 1977, Epic Records dropped him. The most revolutionary artist of his generation was suddenly irrelevant, and then he vanished. For decades, Sly Stone drifted through obscurity, resurfacing only through arrests, rumors, and failed comeback attempts. Drug and gun possession charges followed him into the 1980s. Rehabilitation stints came and went. Promises were made and broken. In 2006, he appeared at the Grammy Awards during an all-star tribute. Dressed in white, sporting a blonde mohawk, he walked on stage during I Wanna Take You Higher. The crowd roared. Then, without explanation, he walked off. The album he hinted at never arrived. In 2011, the truth finally surfaced. CBS News revealed that Sly Stone was living in a white camper van on the streets of Los Angeles. A retired couple on the block let him shower and shared meals with him. Sly explained that he preferred the freedom of the van, that he couldn't stand staying in one place. He once lived in a Beverly Hills mansion. Now he lived on 4 wheels. That same year, police stopped his van for a minor traffic violation. Cocaine was found inside. He was arrested at age 68. Reuters noted that his career had long been marred by drug and gun charges, but the image of a funk pioneer arrested while living in his vehicle stunned the public. There was one last battle left to fight. In 2015, a Los Angeles jury awarded Sly Stone $5 million in damages after finding that his former manager and lawyer had diverted royalties owed to him for more than a decade. For a moment, it looked like justice had finally arrived. Then, the verdict was overturned. The court ruled that Sly had signed away his rights decades earlier. He never collected the money. The case was eventually settled quietly. He did regain some rights to the Family Stone name, but the fortune was gone. What remained was reflection. During the COVID-19 pandemic, something changed. Sly got sober. For the first time in decades, he sat still long enough to tell his own story. His memoir, Thank You, Falletin May Be Mice Elf Again, was published in 2023.
With the money, when you get the money, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
I just automatically think of my kids, right?
Take care of your kids.
I don't know how I'm gonna do.
It was raw, unflinching, brutally honest. He wrote about guns, drugs, paranoia, and excess. He wrote about losing everything. He wrote about tragedies, including the death of his infant son. And he wrote about the vision that once drove him. A multiracial, inclusive band inspired by the Beatles and Bob Dylan. In 2025, Questlove's documentary Sly Lives: The Burden of Black Genius premiered at Sundance. Featuring voices like Andre 3000, D'Angelo, and Nile Rodgers, the film reframes Sly's story, not as a punchline, but as a warning. The cost of brilliance, the burden of being first, the isolation of genius without protection. On June 9, 2025, Sly Stone died at age 82.
See, I don't know. See, you know about that racial shit? I ain't never understood that shit. A lot of groups look racial. I mean, okay. People say things like I should stand for something. You know, lots of black groups will say things like, well, but brother, you know what I'm saying? You got to get down for something, home. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know, nigga, sit your ass down. I'm down for this group.
Reuters reported that he passed after a battle with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other health complications. His family said they took solace in knowing his extraordinary musical legacy will continue to resonate. And it will. Because Sly and the Family Stone didn't just make hits, they reshaped sound. They brought funk into the mainstream. They proved that diversity could be joyful, loud, and commercially powerful. They influenced Prince, Miles Davis, hip-hop, and everything that followed. Their fall was tragic, but their rise was revolutionary. And long after the chaos faded, the music remained. Still asking people to dance, to listen, and to believe that different strokes really can be for different folks.